Let's get started. We're going to start with Senator Hammond with the first question. Name one thing the Trump administration has done, and you can't say Yucca Mountain, that you disagree with. Danny Tarkanian.
The ominous budget that was passed. Even he said he didn't agree with it, and in retrospect would not have wanted to sign it. I don't know how it got so far down the line that he didn't have that choice. Not only is it going to increase our debt $1.3 trillion, but the priorities in it were misplaced.
So, but Trump did, he presented that budget, right? And
well,
then later he said he never should have done it, right?
Well, I'm not sure if he presented it, that Congress and Senate passed it and he signed it.
Well, but the president proposed a budget as well.
It wasn't the budget that he signed.
So it was the one that he signed that you don't agree with?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. Megan?
So I wanted to ask you guys about immigration. So as all of you know, President Trump presented his 4-point immigration plan that included a pathway to citizenship for DACA recipients. Under what circumstances would you feel comfortable allowing a pathway to citizenship for DACA recipients? We'll start with you, Mr. McKee. Mr. Tarkanian?
We need to find a solution to the DACA problem. It's been something that's been discussed for many, many years. But you can't solve that problem until you solve what's causing that problem, and that means the people that are coming into our country illegally, whether it's crossing the border or overstaying their visas. So first of all, you need to secure our borders, whether it's with a wall or a combination of both, but you need to be able to know who's coming to the country and what's coming to the country. Second of all, we need to do a better job for people that have overstayed their visas, finding those individuals, making them either leave the country or re-up their visa application. We need to, as President Trump has said, a couple of his other proposals, chain migration should be limited to the immediate family and the children. Visa lotteries, I don't believe should exist, and we should get rid of those. I do believe that we need to bring people in that are coming from countries where they're being persecuted. My family came from Armenia during the genocide in the early 1900s. It is something that's very important that we maintain as a country. One thing that's missing in President Trump's proposal is e-verification, and I'm not sure why he's not, because most people agree with this, whether you're on the Republican side or the Democrat side. E-verification basically would require every employer to verify the legal status of any employee they hire. That should be a part of any proposal that's there. Once you find those proposals, once you solve those problems, then I think we need to figure out what to do with not only the dreamers that are here, but the ones that came here illegally, but have been good citizens. And I think we should give them legal residency. The ones I've talked with, and even leaders in the Hispanic community, all think legal residency would be sufficient. Giving citizenship to people that come here illegally before the people who've done it the right way waiting in line outside the country isn't fair. But I understand that you have to negotiate between both sides, and if you can get the other items I just mentioned, then maybe you can go further than the legal residency.
So if you had those other items, including chain migration as you described it, e-verify, then you would feel comfortable having some sort of pathway to citizenship for DACA recipients if that all was in the same bill?
I would feel comfortable providing legal residency so they would not have a fear of being deported. If it was something that we had to vote on to get those other items, I certainly would take a serious consideration and may well do so.
But you won't say either way whether you would for sure vote for legal residency.
Well, why would you want to give away your most generous negotiation tool? Of course, this is something that will have to be negotiated upon. The Democrats right now won't even accept what President Trump's offered, which is far more generous than even their own leaders in the parties have had over the years. So again, I think, and I've talked with leaders in the Hispanic community, legal residency where they would not be deported, they would come out of the shadows, they could work and not have the fear of being deported is something they've all agreed with. Now, if it's required to get citizenship, look, I'm not going to be the one that stands that way.
Okay.
All right, Danny Tarkanian, you got to some of this, but I want to just pin you down here on the
I try to answer your questions.
Right, okay. Path to citizenship for everybody who is here now, should that be available, assuming they go to the back of the line, go through criminal background checks, et cetera? Because you were talking with Megan about a legal residency. Should everybody have a chance for a path to citizenship in this country?
So you're articulating it wrong, so it's an easy no, they shouldn't, because there are some people that have committed crimes, and they're people that we don't want in the country. We should deport them. But let's talk about the people that came here illegally, been good citizens, well, good residents, and have worked, provided for the community, and have family members here. I believe it would be unfair to grant citizenship to those individuals, even though I'm not saying we should be rounding them up and deport them. The reason why I think it's unfair is there are millions of people that have applied for citizenship the right way. They don't get to come into the country and enjoy the benefits of being here in the United States. They've waited in line. I've heard so many people talk with me. I've heard in different campaigns where people come up to me and say, my sister has waited 9 years now to get in here the right way, and she can't get in here. It's just not right then to give, as you say, well, give what? Legal residency to the people that are here illegally now, and then after they go to the end of the line, they wait 9 years, they then get citizenship, but they're still here. They're still enjoying the benefits. And see, that's where the problem comes. So I wouldn't be in favor of that. I've been very consistent with that throughout these different elections and interviews that I've had with you. But let's be honest about this thing. We need to get something passed. We need to get something done where we solve some of the bigger problems that are out there: border security, chain migration, e-verification. And if we have to give up a little bit to get all that, then I would be in favor of that. And let me answer the deal about Mark Amadeus. I absolutely would not vote for that. And the reason we
You would not sign the petition, you
absolutely
mean?
not. And the reason you don't is because all the Democrats are going to come together and they're going to vote to give citizenship to the illegal immigrants. And you're going to have a few of the Republicans that are in some Democrat seats, they're going to vote the same way. Therefore, you're going to get a bill passed, or at least through Congress, that's going to give citizenship to illegal immigrants, or the Dreamers, whichever one it is, before you solve all the other problems. You can't just say we're going to open up the discussion. We control the Republicans, Congress, Senate, and the governor and the president's office.
Then why be afraid to discuss it if you control
Well, no,
all
because
of
you
them?
have, because it's, again, there are a lot of, we could say some of them here in our state, some of our Republican legislators that would vote to give citizenship to people that are here illegally before they would solve the problems. And we have the control not to allow that to happen because we control the House. And unless we lose that in this next election, we should not give up.
But that's a political argument, isn't it?
No, it's a
Not
strategy
more than a
argument.
substantive argument.
It's a strategy argument. Legislation is the art of compromising and negotiating. You just don't give up everything, and then you don't get anything you want out of it.
All right.
So turning to healthcare, there have been obviously a lot of conversations about healthcare last summer. You know, the conversations are ongoing today. I wanted to ask you guys sort of straightforward question. Do you think Americans have a right to health insurance? And we're going to start at the end with Mr. Tark-Only.
Thank you, and that's a good question but you play with the word right. Do they have a constitutional right to health care? Of course not. It's not in the Constitution. Do we as a country, a developed, benevolent country, have an obligation to take care of the people, the citizens and the residents in our country that are here? Then yes, we do. And we should do everything we can to provide that health care to them. The problem we have with our current health care system is we can say we have more people that are on the rolls and they're getting health care because the federal government's paying for it, and the hardworking middle-class Americans, like my family, have seen our premiums go up over 400%, deductibles 500%, and co-pays 600%. So you could have insurance, but it's not affordable to use. When you go in and you pay so much for it, by the time you go in and see a doctor, you never get through that deductible, so you've been paying more than that. We have to find reasonably cost-efficient health care for as many people and preferably the entire country that we can. But the cost is the most important thing, and that's where the Affordable Care Act has missed the boat. It's unaffordable. It's made it unaffordable unless you get federal subsidies to pay for it. So yes, we should, as a country, provide health care to the people in our country legally, but it should be at a cost that we can afford, particularly the people that are paying for it themselves.
So how do we do that, and how are we going to pay for it?
Every time in our country, in our economic system, which has been the greatest in the entire world, when we create more competition, we get a better product at a lower cost. The Unaffordable Care Act has created less competition. Here in Nevada, here in Clark County, there's 3 counties in Nevada that have 2 health insurance providers, 14 that only have 1. There is no competition. So you've seen prices skyrocket. 40% this last year, is going to be another 40 to 50% next year. You have to create more competition. And the way you do that is you need to create the market-based principles, allow people to pick and choose what kind of insurance they want. You have companies compete for those people. You allow companies to buy insurance across state lines like they do with every other type of insurance. You allow people to have health savings accounts so they can leave employers and be able to take their health insurance to another job. You need to create more market-based competition. And finally, it's the only product, at least major product in the entire country, that we don't know the cost of it when we purchase it. There needs to be some type of mechanism put in place where people see what the cost is and they decide whether they want to spend that cost to use their service at this place or another place. Competition, better product, lower cost.
So you talk about creating competition so people have choices, but how do you, I know you mentioned, buying plans across state line, but how do you, force companies, encourage companies to offer plans in places that aren't very lucrative. I mean, that's been a lot of the problem here in Nevada, is that the rural markets, just aren't big money makers, So how do you get companies to come in? Is there some sort of legislation? What's the plan?
There's not the case. There was more companies offering insurance before the Unaffordable Care Act was implemented. It was because of the Unaffordable Care Act that companies were dropping out of the business because they couldn't afford it, because of the requirements they had into it. We need to be able to allow people to pick and choose what product is best for them. Right now you have one size fits all whether we want to purchase that type of insurance or not. And I understand we want to be able to have a pool of money coming in so people that have certain types of illnesses, we can cover them and everything. That's understandable, but there was risk pools that we had before that would be much more cost efficient if we did that to bring down the cost or have people with pre-existing conditions be there. You need to have more insurance companies in here that are providing, or even doctors themselves being able to provide services. Doctors have different prices for each individual that comes in there based upon if they're part of a plan, if they come in. Same thing with hospitals. The whole system is screwed up compared to what we do with every other product in our country. Why don't we get back to what's made our country so great, the world's greatest economic force, and that's the market-based competition.
So should there be less required benefits that insurance companies have to offer, so people are, able to buy higher deductible plans and plans that offer fewer benefits?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Let me switch gears here a little bit. Senator Hammond, you're up now. To an issue that is both important to Nevada and has been debated already in Congress. I want to ask you a couple questions about this. If you were in Congress, would you vote to take marijuana off of the Schedule I list?
Yes, I would. And quite frankly, it's because I've been dealing with this issue actually since the 2013 session, when we already had on the books since 2000 medical marijuana and the ability to access medical marijuana, but we never had a mechanism to do so. And so I, along with several other legislators, went down to Phoenix, Arizona to kind of look at their program, find out how they administered it and how they implemented their program to make sure that we took care of any problems with whatever our solution we came, whatever legislation we came up with. We didn't want to fall into the same pitfalls, and so we went down there and we discovered a few things. As I helped write that legislation, not knowing that in the near future we were going to be legalizing recreational marijuana, what I discovered is you have to look at what are not only the pitfalls that Arizona fell into or avoided, but where we are as a state, any state that then legalizes recreational marijuana. And the pitfall that we came into, or that exists now for every state, is that we're all dealing with cash. It's a cash-only business. And that's a huge public safety issue. We've seen people, there's documented evidence that there's arrests, there's robberies. People are putting their lives in their own hands, these dispensaries as well as anybody else who's in the marijuana business. I think that as a public safety issue, the horse is already out of the barn, so to speak, as we always talk about. This is an issue I think that every state's going to encounter, whether or not to legalize recreational marijuana. And so you're going to have to figure out how to make sure that this industry can deal with credit instead of cash. I mean, not only are we jeopardizing those who work in the dispensaries, but ever so often they have to actually bring their money to state offices for the state workers to count for tax purposes, and they're bringing wads of cash. That's an issue to me. So when you deliver that and you don't have the proper security, or you're having somebody up in a room counting cash, I think that it just opens up the opportunities for the criminal element to get involved. I'd like to avoid that as much as possible.
Did you vote to legalize marijuana?
Personally, no, I did not.
But it's here.
It's here.
It's here in this state. If you were in Congress, would you urge the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, to not crack down on either medical or legalized marijuana in Nevada, as he seems to want to do very badly?
As he seems to want to do very badly, but I'm a states' rights person as well, and we, the people of Nevada, now I may not have voted for it, but the people of Nevada spoke, and they spoke very loudly, and they wanted it, and it's here. Other states have done the same thing. You're going to have to make sure that we have some uniform laws, but then at the same time allow the states to develop their policies over time. And I think that you have to do that without the threat of the crackdown. That's another reason why we need to go in and look at whether or not we want to keep that as a Schedule I a narcotic or drug. So I think that at this point we have to decide. We have already, as a state, we've already decided where we want to go. Now, would you please allow us the comfort of being able to do so the way we would like to? And I really think that this is a big issue that needs to be addressed right away.
Danny Tarkanian, do you think Congress should take pot off of Schedule 1?
Yes, I do, and for the reasons that Scott maintained. Make it easy for you.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
So you're for the Hammond plan?
I'm for the hand.
Okay. Did you vote? Did you vote to legalize marijuana?
No, I didn't.
Why not?
You know, I believe very strongly in libertarian views and values, but as long as the choices they're making don't substantially impact the rest of the community, and there's a question of whether marijuana would or wouldn't, particularly with whether someone is getting behind the wheel, whether they're affecting their job, and whether it leads to other drugs that are more serious. But the people here in Nevada voted for it. I'm going to vote in Washington, D.C. to support the will of the people here in Nevada.
So you wouldn't ask the Attorney General, you would say, don't come into Nevada, Jeff Sessions, right?
Not on this issue.
Not.
I'm getting ready for your next ones.
Oh, do I have another question
I
about Jeff
believe so.
Sessions? Okay, all right, go ahead.
Okay. So as many of you know, on Friday there was a school shooting that claimed the lives of 10 people. Some school resource officers were on hand. You know, they were able to engage the gunman within the first, few minutes of shooting, but still the shooting lasted some 25, 30 minutes. Even with the officer thing on campus. This is a question a lot of people are talking about, obviously, in this country, but what should be done to curb the tide of gun violence? And we'll start with Mr. McKay.
First of all, Megan, I thought those are good questions, and those are something that we need to try to find the best solution possible. We're not going to find an answer to stop all of these things from happening. First of all, how do we get to this point? What is this problem? There's a devaluation of life here in our society now. We've de-emphasized the importance of a family, of faith, of being a good person now. And we've allowed society, and whether it's video games, the rap music, or this and that, we glamorize violence. Is that going to change? Can we legislate that? No, we can't legislate that. You know, what we can do as legislators are do the best that we can to catch or prevent these people from committing the acts that they're doing. It's not a foolproof deal. You're not going to have one answer for them all, but you can try to solve some things. As David said, they're done because of history. This is important. You see what's happened that allowed these things to happen, and you use that history to try to prevent it in the future. We're learning from our mistakes with here in Las Vegas, and the hotels here are taking certain precautions to stop that from happening. Two big things that are causing that we need to do that we can't control. We need to keep guns away from people who shouldn't have guns. We should have background checks for everybody. We should have a more extensive treatment for people that are on mental illnesses or that are on serious drugs, which several of these mass murders have been. We need to be able to identify these people as best as we can. With respect to the school shootings, I mean, listen, I have 4 young kids. A lot of people have kids here on this stage, and we all love them very much and we don't want anything to happen to them. What can we do to solve these problems here in the school system? Well, when 9/11 happened, we made changes to get on an airplane. We go to see a Golden Knights hockey game. There's more precautions now, metal detectors, search and things to prevent people from coming in that would have weapons. Unfortunately, and how sad it is for our society, we're at that point for our school children. We're going to have to limit the area of ingress and egress of people coming into the school system. We're going to have to check them. We're going to have to make sure their guns aren't coming in there. It's going to be a big inconvenience. It's really sad we got to this point in our society, but that's where we're at, and the life of our children are every bit is much more important than the lives of someone going to a sporting event. We need to protect our children. They're the most vulnerable.
Before we get to Senator Hammond, really quickly, you mentioned background checks and that there should be background checks. Do you support universal background checks even for private gun shows and private transfers?
I think we absolutely have to keep the guns away from bad people, and that's the best way to do so.
And so you do support?
Yes.
Okay.